morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Eli with tointerpret.com, and we have Edgar Rigado today as our guest speaker, too. Um, I wanted to go over first, thank you for being here, and thank you, Dango, for joining us, too, and being part of this project. We've been doing this coaching bundle for some time now, and basically, we thought there was a need for a product that will give you like a one-on-one and hands-on, lead you through the process for becoming certified and either the written part or the auto part. And mostly the auto part because, we're all great interpreters, but somehow we're not able to pass this exam. So we try to help you with that, giving you the best material out there, the best material, the best instructors like Edgar, and our coaching one-on-one with you that we walk you through all the way in the process. So what we're going to have today is we have, like Edgar was saying, the questions via chat. Okay, I'll be trying to answer most of them if you have them via chat to you. If not, at the end of the presentation, there will be a questions and answers section, which will be divided into everything that is related to the class that Edgar is giving. He will start answering those questions regarding the introduction to the state to the state oral exam, and then it will be my turn if you have questions regarding the coaching bundle. As of now, this is only available in Spanish, so this is for Spanish test takers. Okay, the coaching bundle. Also, like I said, you can also more information you can find at www.tointerpret.com. That's our website. We have Lorena Sevilla, who's a head writer, Edgar as our guest speaker, Eli, myself, I'm the head coach. So we try to provide the best material, which brings you exam terminology. And what I say terminology is with a purpose, for exam purpose. Mock practices review, which Edgar provides us, and then exam techniques and skills that are provided by Edgar. As you know, he's very well renowned with his methods. And then you have the one-on-one coaching on my side and our coaches. We do 10 complete mock exams with a one-on-one review of those exams. So you only know you don't get just one, you get 10 of them that we do weekly to see your process. Then on-the-go learning tools, we have our learning management system, our student portal, which is, on the web. And also this year we're starting with an app for Android and iOS. And of course, Quizlet, Calendly, all those tools. The idea is that you're on the go, you're in the car. Mostly some of you spend 45 minutes to an hour driving every day. So that's 2 hours of study time that we try to utilize and, make the most of our time in just 3 months. That's how long it lasts because the coaching bundle starts from January 17th to April 4th. And what we try to do mainly is a transformation coaching to lead you to success in the exam and as an interpreter overall. This exam is mainly 80% it's the middle stick. It's everything here on your mind. How you prepare and you're not nervous for the exam. And what we do is through the 10 weeks, you're going to be doing this every Saturday with us. So that way, by the time you come to your test, you already know what you're doing. You're not figuring out at your test what you're going to do. You've been doing it for the last 3 months. So definitely you'll be more confident and ready to tackle this exam and succeed. Our classes are 10 weeks on Saturdays, where we're going to have Hidalgo from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Then we take a lunch break, and then we do the part with me about from 1 to 3 that we do mock exams every Saturdays. And then through the week, there will be information that you're going to have to study. That's through our learning management system, through our student portal. And also, you will meet with me or our rater to talk about how you did in that mock exam. And that will be basically, that's the main concept of our coaching bundle. Okay. What we're doing today, okay, we're just gonna hear just 1 minute video coaching bundle that explains briefly what it is. Then Hidalgo will take over and he will do the live class. Like he says, no breaks for him. But of course, this also will be recorded And questions, please, at the end or via chat to keep the flow. First, we'll start with questions for Edgar, and then any question regarding the coaching bundle itself, then I will answer them after we have taken care of the question with Edgar. Okay, then we're going to have a lunch break. That will give you time to get ready for those that already registered to have the exam at 2 p.m. Eastern Time today. That will be our initial mock exam today at 2 to 4 p.m. today. And all those that you have not registered yet, you can do so at noon. And then if you're not able to make for today's initial mock exam, we will have one Monday. Since it's a holiday, so we got Monday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Okay, so those who take it today won't need to be there, but those are. And of course, through the week, you'll be receiving information on how to log on and to use student portal and everything else once you sign up. Okay, all right. So here's a little bit about what we do.
Success in the court interpreter oral exam isn't just about knowledge and experience. It's about expert preparation and dedicated live coaching support. Our 12-week oral interpreter exam prep coaching bundle combines online sessions with renowned coaches like Edgar Hidalgo and Ernesto Wagner, including exclusive new material and live lectures featuring Edgar as our guest speaker. You'll gain access to the InterpreTrain app, online materials from Trans Interpreting, Southern California School of Interpretation, and Noe.ai, along with interactive self-paced modules and advanced practice tools. Benefit from new exclusive mock exams, expert evaluations, and in-depth study materials tailored for your success. Make a change, do it differently, and invest wisely in your exam preparation. Register now and confidently stride towards your professional goals with our proven comprehensive support. Running from July 25th to October 13th, 2025, this program provides a strategic roadmap to ensure your certification success. Registration is still open.
All right, guys, thank you. So, of course, this is from January 17th to April, okay? All right, so now I have to send that. I will answer any questions in the chat directly to you guys, okay? And now, thank you, Edgar.
All right, everybody. Okay, so let's get started. And if you can see my screen, we already did the test. Let me introduce myself first of all. For those of you that don't know me, I know that some of you do. I just put a few things here on the screen. I've been interpreting for over 30 years, professionally as a court interpreter, 25. I've done medical, before that I did medical interpreting, school interpreting, immigration interpreting. I've done pretty much almost all the interpreting you can imagine. But my specialty is community interpreting. And when I say community, that means medical, court, right, schools. Although I've done some conference interpreting, that's not what I really do on a day-to-day basis. I'm a professional trainer in the sense that I did that for a living, only that. I didn't even interpret for a while, just did in training. I studied a bachelor's in interpreting, and I have a master's in Spanish and linguistics. But so teaching is my first passion, right? I love to teach, but I also love interpreting. So it's a great combination. Okay, so that's just me in a nutshell. If you want to know more about me, you can go online and you can read more about myself. Okay, so let's get started. When I tell you I'm going to share a little bit about my personal journey in a bit, but let me tell you what the purpose of this webinar is. And it's going to be language neutral. I saw some questions. Some people would say, is this going to be in Spanish? No, the training will be in Spanish, but today's class or instruction will be only in English. So today I'm going to try to introduce some strategies, pitfalls, and techniques. So let's just say you just take this class. You're going to take a lot from it. It'll give you at least an idea of what the path should be. Okay, because every time I see people study, and sometimes they don't know I'm a trainer, and I say, what are you studying? I'm always curious, and they tell me all these different things. Now, one thing that Eli had a fabulous idea of, and I always tell people you should go to several places, right? Because everybody has different styles. Sometimes you might learn with me and it'll work great for you, but sometimes you'll learn with somebody else and that will be great for you, and so forth. A lot of people have different techniques, different styles, right? But Eli has, got them all together. I've seen the schools, especially the one in California, and one that the owner is my friend. Her name is Virginia Valencia, which is Interpret Train. They have very good training materials, and he put them all together, and I think that's a knockout combination. Okay, because remember, it's not just one person. Okay, you can't. I think it's a combination, and when you hear my journey, you'll see what I mean. Okay, so anyways, we're going to introduce strategies, pitfalls, and techniques to pass. We're going to share our journey, okay, and how others have gone from failure to success, and focus on passing the exam, not just becoming an interpreter. This is not this course, at least my course. I do have courses to teach you how to become an interpreter. Okay, you got to remember that it's very different if you go to school, a school to become an interpreter. Okay, that's great. It's just like going to law school. I know a lot of people that go to law school and they go take the bar exam and they fail it. As a matter of fact, none of them just go take the bar exam. It's rare. And I know this because I dated an attorney and we used to speak about this. And she told me that almost every single student takes a bar prep exam, okay, and they have jokes amongst the attorneys where they say, if I would have just taken the bar prep exam, I wouldn't have to go to law school, and it's a joke, but it says a lot. It says that a bar prep class is really what you need to pass the bar, not law school. Law school is a very important part, but to pass the bar, you need to go to some type of bar prep class, okay? Because the bar exam is a little bit different than law school. It measures different things. And so this is what I believe that I can give you. Okay, it's kind of like the bar prep, but for interpreters, right? Okay, so let's get started. And before we get started with all the objectives, I'm going to share what my journey is for those of you that don't know me. As many, people say I ran into interpreting. Okay, I was studying to be an electronics engineer, and my idea was while I was studying electronic engineering, I wanted to do something so I can help myself out. I went to a trade school, which was in the early '90s, and as a matter of fact, it was a school of Nestor Wagner, one of the schools that you're going to attend. He's been around for a very long time. And in that time, I finished that school, but I fell in love with interpreting. So it's not that I found interpreting found me. So I decided to go full on interpreting mode. I quit electronics and I went to interpreting. And when I did this, I actually decided to go do a bachelor's degree in interpreting. I did it in Cal State Long Beach here in California. They had that program. They still have it. And I finished the program. I studied other materials on my own, whatever was available in that time, and I took the test, and I failed it. Okay, I said to myself, normal, I wasn't. It's the first time it happens. People take it 10 times, and during that time, people would take it 5, 10 times. It was a normal thing, and I took it again, and I failed it again, and I said, this does not make any sense. Okay, and, by the way, I was already working as an interpreter. I was already a medical interpreter. As a matter of fact, I was a certified medical interpreter. I had passed my certification as a medical interpreter, but I couldn't pass this darn legal exam. And I said, but I studied for it. I know the vocabulary. I know the techniques. I actually knew the man who had created the first exam, okay, the first interpreting exam in California. He had created the first interpreting exam in California. He was my professor. So I even had that advantage, but I didn't pass it. So I said, there's definitely something wrong here. Give me a second. I think somebody has been scribbling right here. Okay. Let me see it. Let me stop the share. And then for some reason, I see a scribble on my screen. There we go. Okay. There's no scribbling there. All right. So, I thought to myself, there's something going on here. So I decided, I made it a personal goal to crack the exam, to see what's going on with this exam. I mean, this is after the third try. On the third try, I passed it, but there was a bitter taste to that. I mean, I passed the exam. I was happy, but I said, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. Why didn't I pass it on the first try or on the second try? There's something definitely wrong. There's something that we're not learning, something that we're missing here. So I made it my goal to figure out what the test was all about, and I did. It took me a couple of years to do that, and then I started training people, and that's how I started. I started training people on how to pass the exam. I've been doing it for almost 20 years now. So I discovered a few things, and that's what I'm going to some of the things I'm going to teach you today. Okay, so today we're going to understand what the consortium exam is, and I say consortium exam because that's what it is. Before it wasn't. Most states had their own thing, like California had their own thing, and so did many other states. I think the only state that still does its own exam is New York. But other than that, we all use the same exam, which is the consortium exam, for several reasons. Mainly it's for financial reasons. Okay, so we're going to understand that exam. We're going to identify something that's called scoring units. If you don't know what that is, we'll talk about it in depth. We're going to get familiarized with the text and the types of scenarios that you will encounter. We're going to learn, not today, essential terminology, but what the essential terminology should be. Okay. In my training, we're going to practice mock exams. And of course, today we're going to try to improve your test-taking techniques with some of the things that I'm going to teach you, okay? So these are some of the objectives. I have this because it's kind of a generic thing. Usually I give this to people that are going to do my complete course. Obviously, we're not going to do this. You're not going to do this today, or some of you might not take the training, so you might not do it, but that's the objective, right? The general objective. Okay, so let's get started now. All right, the first thing that people should know, okay, is I always get this, Edgar, I've been interpreting for the courts for 10 years, and people even congratulate me after I do my work. They're very happy with my work. I know the vocabulary because I do it every day, but I haven't been able to pass this exam, okay? And that I get, if I had a nickel for every time somebody told me that, I would have a lot of money. So, but the thing is that the exam is, okay, there's three scenarios. Okay, there's school, there's real life, and then there's the exam. And I'm sure that you had conversations with people and they tell you, I went to school, but when I went to real life, I had to learn everything from scratch. They don't teach you nothing in school, right? They do, but you've heard that before, right? It's the same thing. But this is at the exam level. Yeah, you went to school. It's nothing like school. There's some things, right? But it's nothing like school. It's nothing like real life. It's a whole different monster. Okay? And sometimes people can pass the exam and not really be able to interpret really well. That happens. It's a sad thing, but it's not my job is, I'm a hired gun, right? I always tell people, I'm a hired gun. You hire me and I give you results. And my result is to help you pass. Now, does that mean that you're necessarily prepared for a lot of things? No. And here's the deal. You're never going to be prepared. If you go to a trade school, if you go to interpreting school, you're not going to be fully prepared. You're not. Because, let's say you went to trade school and let's say you pass the exam and then you have to interpret in a very specific case that deals with civil law. And you didn't study civil law in deep. You're going to have to train yourself. So you're never going to be prepared, all right? Okay, so just take all those things out of your head. My English isn't good enough. My Spanish isn't good enough. I didn't train on everything. No. Passing the test has nothing to do with all that stuff. Okay, it's a whole different monster. It's artificial. It's not real. What do you mean it's not real? They take it from real cases, Edgar. Yeah, so that they make movies out of real life situations. They say based on a true story, and you look at the movie and it's completely different, right? Based on a true story, but it's not a true story. And that's how the exam is. Remember that. It's important, okay? If you remember that, this is fake. Okay, this is artificial. Okay? And this has been cracked already. So we're going to learn how to crack it, okay? So academic real world experience academic and real world experience is not, it's not that it doesn't help you, it's not enough. Okay? You need specific test-based strategies. Okay, and that's what we offer today. Okay, so we already talked about these. These are the 3 learning contexts: academic, courtroom, and exam. So courtroom experience teaches, so academic teaches foundation, courtroom teaches application, exam bridges the gap between knowledge and test success. Okay, so this is where we tell you, okay, this is what you need from real life, this is what you need from school, so you can pass this test. All right. All right, so test partially reflects real-world interpreting practices. Yes, it's going to be a murder trial. Let's say you're going to do a consecutive cross-examination of a witness, and the person was a witness of a murder, right? It's a real case scenario. But here's where things differ in the exam. There's something called, for example, density. And people don't understand. I don't know why I'm not passing the test. I do cross-examinations in court all the time, okay, but I can't pass. Well, that's why, because there's a concept called density. And what do I mean by density, okay? Listen up, people. Concentrate here because this is important. This is why you're paying the big bucks. So let me give you a sentence. For example, I saw a man in the park, okay? Right. I saw the man at the park. All right. That would be something that a witness would say, right? And that's probably how she or he will say it in real life. I saw. Where'd you see him? Oh, I saw the man at the park. All right. Perfect. But what happens in the test? They'll give you something like this. I saw René Martín Fulgencio Rodriguez on 11017 Maplefield Street in the city of Springfield on November 23rd, 2003, and he was walking into the park, right? Something like that. So it's the same thing, right? I saw the guy in the park. He or she saw the person in the park, but they're artificially exaggerating and adding certain things that you probably wouldn't see in a trial in that way. I mean, you can see it, but not exactly like that. There's a little slight variance, right? What happened there? They added names, they added numbers, right? They added dates, they added addresses, okay? And they made it a little bit different. So it was the same thing that you do every day, because in real life, they're not trying to trip you in real life. That's not their goal, to trip you, to make you to see if you say this instead of this. No, that doesn't happen in real life. Okay? That does not happen. But it happens in the exam. But once you're prepared for that, once you anticipate that, if somebody's trained you for that, you go, oh, I know what they're going to do. They're going to do this. And I'm listening now. And I'm paying attention to this now. See what I mean? That's what we mean about, and that little term is called density. Okay, how dense is the script? Okay, because and remember, in a real life, a cross-examination can last an entire day. And a script could be 100 pages long. A script in an exam is maybe 2 or 3 pages long. So they're putting a lot of information in a very small script. That means there's going to be a lot of things that you have to interpret in a very compressed utterance. Okay? So please, that's what we're going to be talking today. So success depends on understanding these artificial conditions. So that's one thing that you have to remember for this test. Okay? They're not real. That's why they charge. That's why, okay, let me stop right here. Building these tests is extremely expensive. I mean, it's very expensive for them to develop a test. There's a lot of things involved. This is why, listen up, this is why they don't change the test every cycle. They don't change the tests every cycle. For example, let's say they build a test now. They might, and let's go back 20 years, okay? So let's say they build a test and they use it for 3 cycles. and then they'll create a new test, use it for another 3 cycles, and then after after those 3 cycles or 2 years, it doesn't. I'm just giving a number, 3 cycles. That's not the number. Then they'll build another one, and then they'll build another one. Then after a while, they'll use the one that they used 5 years ago. Okay, they won't create another one because it's very expensive. And then next cycle they'll use the one they used 3 years ago, and then the one they used 2 years ago, and then the one they use, and then they use them again, and then they'll use them again, and then when they use them too much, they retire them, and they'll build a new one. But at a certain to a certain degree, if you take the test 10 times, you'll probably pass. Okay, because you'll take the same test you took 5 years ago, eventually, because they don't have a lot of tests. And I'm telling you this because I've seen situations, and you're not going to believe this. Okay, I'm putting on the record, by the way. I've seen situations. I have a personal friend that took the test, and he told me, and he asked me this specific question, Edgar, and this is in Spanish, okay? Because remember, in languages other than Spanish, okay, like for example, let's say Punjabi, okay, or Korean or Mandarin, in languages other than Spanish, you see this even more often. What I'm going to tell you right now. So a friend of mine calls me, and he tells me, Edgar, I took the test a few months ago, and I'm going to take it again. Do you think they'll give me the same test? I said, no, it's impossible. Why would they give you the same test? They have other tests, and they know what test they gave you. They're not going to give you the same test. So the guy said, oh, okay, I won't worry about that one. Well, he took the test. Guess what? He got the same exact test that he got before. He goes, Edgar, I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, yep, I got it. Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. No, well, okay, well, don't worry. You're not going to get it again, Don't worry about it. You're not going to get it again. Okay? And he took the test again, and guess what? He got it again. The same test 3 times in a row. And now you're going to ask me, did he pass it? No, he didn't pass it. Well, one of the reasons was he didn't study what he had already seen. Now, this is the only time I've heard of this, by the way. I've never heard of this. It's one person getting the same test 3 times. I know his first and last name. He's actually a friend of mine. I've heard of this in languages other than Spanish. They repeat the exam. Now, why am I telling you this? Okay. Well, what does this have to do? I'm not giving you exam content. I'm telling you that this teaches you 2 things. It teaches you that if you take an exam, okay, and you pay for it, you should learn from that exam. In other words, don't think that because you got that exam, you're not going to get either that same exam or something similar to it. Number 1. Okay. So that's a very important thing. The first takeaway from that. The second thing that you learn from that is that if you take the exams 10 times, you're probably going to get the same exam that you took before. So why then you may ask me, Edgar, then why even take your course if I am going to get the same exam 5 years from now? Well, because you don't want to take this test 5 consecutive years, do you? I mean, you want it passes on the first whack or the second whack if it's necessary. But you don't want to be here by the time you pass the exam. AI has taken over all the jobs, right? You don't want that to happen to you. But yes, that can happen. Okay, so just want to let you know. All right, so just little information, that's very curious that I ran into in these years. So understand the exam. Okay, so Elise said something very important right now, and he said that your mental state is the most important. That's the most important thing in anything, by the way, also. Anything. It's all up here in your mind. And the people that I see fail all the time are the people that, they doubt themselves. I hear them interpret, and it's not just me, it's other instructors. Wow, you're a great interpreter. You're gonna kill that. You're gonna kill the day of the exam. You're gonna kill it, right? And but guess what? They don't, and you don't understand. You test them and with all the vocabulary, they know everything, but they don't pass, and it's because they get nervous. And that's in everything, you get nervous with a girl, you get nervous when you're going to give a speech. It's being nervous. So that's one of the biggest things that you have to figure out yourself. What is going to make you, okay, not be nervous, okay? Because external stress affects performance, right? So you have to, from now to when you take the exam, aside from training, I mean all the preparation that you're going to do, which is important. You got to find what triggers you. I'm going to give you an example. I had one student. I have so many stories from students. So I had one student who was an interpreter already, of course. I had already gone through courses and studied, was an interpreter, just needed to pass the certification exam. And the time that he did pass, it was a he. This is his technique. I'm just going to show you one. This is him. This doesn't mean this is you. He told me that he suited up because when he did his assignments, he would wear a tie and a suit. So what he did was he wore his suit, and not only that, when he took the exam, he didn't sit down. He stood up, because usually what you do is you sit on a table, right? They put some recording devices and they give you some paper and a pen and a glass of water. And there's a reason why they give you a glass of water, by the way. When you get nervous, your mouth gets dry. So they give you a glass of water. But he didn't sit. He stood, because you can stand, by the way. It's no problem. Because he told me, when I go do a real interpretation, I stand, and of course I suit up. That day of the test, he put on his suit and he stood up as he interpreted. Why did he do this? Because that put him in the state of mind. It put him in a state where he was not taking a test. He was calm and relaxed, how he usually was when he did his work. Okay, because when you do something very frequently, which is your job, right? You don't feel nervous. You don't feel nervous doing your regular job, right? That was his technique, and that helped him pass. Okay, that was a difference between passing and not passing. But you have to discover that. And I wish I could teach. I'm going to teach you some things today, but everybody's different. That's the problem. You're not all the same. So you got to figure out, what is it? Is it going to be a walk? And we'll talk about that later on, but that's important. Emotional. Okay, so let's talk about the reasons people fail, right? So one of them is a lack of confidence, of course. You don't trust you're already an interpreter. You already went to school, but you don't trust yourself, right? Now, life stressors. I'm not going to talk about that situation, but I've had people that, one of their parents died the day before of a test, and one of them went to go take it, and I said, why are you taking it? Why do you do that to yourself? It could be, well, first of all, because I already paid for it, and, at least I can go and have the experience. After the death of a parent, that's a big life stressor, but those happen. That's what I'm trying to say. A lot of things can happen. You got a cold. Okay. You have a fever. Okay. Now, the problem with this test is that everything has to align. Okay. That day you can't have diarrhea, right? That day you can't have a fight with your significant other in the morning before going there. Okay. That day you can't have, break up with your boyfriend or girlfriend that week. And you can't avoid life, right? But life happens, and you have to be prepared for that. Okay. Now, one thing that, even if those things happen, there's a way to overcome that, which is getting all your abilities. You practice so much that even though all these things happen, you can still focus. But that requires a lot of practice. But even if you don't practice a lot, if you're focused and everything aligns, all the stars align, you're going to have a good day. So personal life, that's a big problem, because you have 45 minutes to prove everything you've got. Okay, that's the problem. And it's one day, and if you don't, you have to wait another 6 months. In some states, you have to wait a year. So problems. Now, another thing is, and I'm not gonna scare you, but a lot of people don't pass because of technical issues. In other words, the microphone isn't working, the computer breaks down, or audio. I've heard horror stories, many of them. It can happen to you. Now, the good part is, if that happens to you, they'll let you retake the test and they won't charge you, but you have to wait 6 months to a year. That's the bad part. But it happens. Okay? That's not your fault, but it does happen. Okay? And of course, this is something that you can control, which is practice. Okay? All right? And terminology is also something that you can control. You can't control you can't control the confidence part. This life stressors, you do have some type of control. Okay, but technical issues is something different. So some of these things are under your control. Some of these things are not under your control. So don't worry if you have technical issues and something happens and they can't grade your test. It happens. It's happened to many people. So that's just part of the. But at least that's nothing that you did. It's just life, right? Okay, good. All right. So we already talked about nervousness, or you don't feel that you're up for the task. Okay, I can tell you that you are up for the task. All right, you are up for the task. This exam is actually very, very, very easy if you understand it. It's kind of when you start to not studying the material, studying how it's made, you think to yourself, how is it that why didn't I not pass this exam? It's so easy. I'll give you an example, okay? And I'm jumping the gun here. Man, I want to wait, but I'll do it now. You know that people don't pass this exam? One of the reasons I ask people, why do you feel this exam is so hard? They say, oh, well, you got to know all this legal vocabulary, right? That's what they always tell me. Yeah, you have to know so much legal vocabulary. Yeah, those 20 words are hard, aren't they? 20 words? What are you talking about? Yeah, it's about 20 words. Are you kidding me? It's like thousands of words. Well, you're telling me legal words, right? Yeah, it's about 20 words. And I know you're going to say, what are you talking about, Edgar, 20 words? Well, did you know that the component that grades the most amount of legal terminology is simultaneous? That's where they test you on legal terminology the most. And did you know that if you knew how to handle about 20 words, you could probably ace the simultaneous? There's about 20 words that they always ask. And if you memorize those 20 words, you're good. You'll probably hit 100% on the legal terminology. You're kidding, Edgar. Yeah. Because remember, in the simultaneous, it's always a closing argument. And there's like about 10 to 15 key words in every closing argument. And if you know those, because those are the ones that they use in every single closing argument. If you master those, you'll get all the legal terminology in the simultaneous component. Hence, you just mastered the component that grades the most amount of legal vocabulary. So it's only like 20 words. Is that a lot? You can memorize them in 15 minutes. But people you didn't know that. So you're studying the whole Black's Law Dictionary, right? And it's just 20 words that they're grading you on. So when people tell me I didn't pass because of the legal vocabulary, I said, well, that's very sad because I could have taught you that in 15 minutes. And you'll see when we get to, we're going to get to, I'm going to show you that. You're thinking this guy's on weed this morning, right? I'm not. You'll see. It's very easy. Okay, so the exam is built around scoring units. So what are scoring units? Scoring units are specific words because you see the people that make the exam, they know that you're not really prepared to work in the courts. That's impossible. You took a 1-year course and you're going to be with judges that have been on the bench for over 10 years, attorneys that studied over 5 years in law school, and you're going to know all the vocab that they know in a 6 months course. Heck no, you're not going to know anything. You're not going to know all this stuff. No, they just want to make sure that you know just enough that you're just dangerous enough to step into court. That's all they want. You're not prepared. You're never going to be prepared. Okay? People say, "Oh, I went to school and I know." You don't know nothing. Okay? Because you're not unless you're an attorney already. I know attorneys that study interpreting, they're prepared because they're attorneys already. Unless you're an attorney, and by the way, if you're an attorney in a foreign country, you're halfway there because you study, unless you're it was an English-speaking country like in England, but even then they have different law system. But you know what I mean. Then you're kind of prepared, right? But if you just ran into this, you're not prepared. So remember that the people that build this exam, they know. They just want to make sure that you know the basics and every single basic legal terminology, that that you know some ethical things, that so the courts won't get sued. It's a very simple exam, really, measuring a very few things. So they want to make sure that you know certain things. Okay, for example, certain phrases. Okay, certain legal terminology. So they grade these very specific things. Okay. So this is what, and I'll go more into scoring units right now. I'll explain them more in detail. Okay. Now, they don't test you. Another thing that makes this exam super easy. Okay. And I'm always telling you it's super easy. Oh yeah, that's easy for you to say, Edgar. No, I failed it many times. I know how difficult it could be, but because you're walking blind, you have a blindfold. Okay. Walking is difficult, right? I get tired when I walk. When I take long walks, I like walking, but you get tired, right? But if you're blindfold, right, you're going to get, and you're not walking to your destination, you're going to be even more tired. But I'm just going to take away that blindfold. So when you walk, yes, you're going to walk, you're going to get tired, but you're going to get to your destination the fastest way possible, right? Removing that blind. So the first part to removing that blindfold is to let you see the light. And the light is that they only grade you on scoring units. So, for example, a page has about 500 words, right? A page. Half a page has how many words? 250 words. Half a page. By the way, you get tested on your site on half a page. Oh, no, it's longer. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. No, it is not. Don't argue with me. It is not. It is not over 250. It's half a page. That's all you get. Oh, but it was huge. They only give you 5 minutes to read like a whole page, and it's not a whole page. It's half a page. It's 200. It's less than 250 words, by the way. Way less. It's not even half a page. So it's about a third of the page. So let's go back. I'm getting sidetracked. So it's 500 words is a full page, 12 font, double spaced. Right? It's 500 words. Half a page is about 250 words. Out of those 250 words, which is half a page, in sight, they only grade you on 10% of those. What do you mean, Edgar? Yeah, they're only grading 10% of those words that are on that paper. What about the rest? They don't care. What do you mean they don't care? Okay? So if I say the black dog, and what are they grading in that sentence? Dog. How about black? No, just dog. So if I say the black dog within the street, dog is the only word they're grading? Yes. So if you say the dog street, if I said that, would I get the whole sentence right? Correct. How about if I didn't say black? Yeah, you still get it right. But I didn't interpret completely. It doesn't matter. You still get it right because they're only grading you on scoring units. They're only grading you on scoring units. But that's dumb. That's, that's how it's graded. I'm sorry. I didn't make the system up, but that's how it's done. You have to learn to play the game. And that's the game. Okay? Scoring units. Now, what happens if you miss a scoring unit? No points. Okay? Okay? Okay, you get no point. Even if the rest is correct. So if you say the black cat was in the street, you get everything incorrect. But I said almost everything right. I just got wrong dog. I said cat. Well, that was the only word they cared about. So you got everything wrong. Right? So that's how it works. Okay. Fluency doesn't matter if key terms are omitted. Okay, what if I said this, Edgar? The dog, the black dog was in the street. Did I get it right? Yep, you got it right. But it was the fluency was terrible, Edgar. Yeah, you got it right. How about my pronunciation? Okay, my pronunciation was terrible. I'm going to tell you a story about another student that his Spanish was terrible. And he told me, "You think I can pass this exam?" I think and this is what I told him. I can help you pass the exam. Okay? But you have to work on your Spanish. Okay? And guess what? He did pass the exam, but he didn't improve his Spanish. He actually got fired from a courthouse because other interpreters complained about his Spanish. And he hadn't, since then he has recovered, and he now does work in the courts, and he has improved his Spanish. But this is a real story, and if somebody listening to this recording outside that knows me, they know who this person is. But this is real, people. This is real. What does this tells you? Several things. You should start by knowing good Spanish and good English to be able to study this course. But what that shows you is that language knowledge has nothing to do with passing the exam. This is how powerful this is. Okay, some people hate me for this. They literally hate me because of other things that I teach. I understand. But hey, it's not my fault. I needed to crack this exam. I needed to teach people what they were doing wrong. I think I went overboard on this, but it is what it is. So if you don't, people don't really, people knew what I taught, they'd probably come more to these courses. So well, there's one thing that you have to remember. There's always going to be one language that is stronger than the other. Always. I don't care how good you speak both languages. One of them is going to be stronger. Now, in some of our cases, one of our languages is way stronger than the other. So you'll hear some people with an accent. In my case, for example, some people have an accent in Spanish. Some people have a strong accent in English. It's okay, and some people speak many languages. And my professor spoke like 8 languages. He had an accent in each one of them, right? That's normal. But you have to let yourself be understood, and it has to be good enough. All right. Okay. All right. So, and there's a flaw in this exam. It's not my fault, by the way. It's a flaw, and I'll show it to you when we get to the scoring unit. That's why you see some people that speak Spanish or they speak English and they speak kind of terrible, and you ask yourself, how did this person pass the exam? I'll show you why it is that they passed. But when we get to the scoring units, okay? So that's what I mean by fluency doesn't matter if key terms are omitted, but if key terms are not omitted, still fluency doesn't matter. Incredible, right? Okay. So let's talk about the types of scoring units. Now, for that, I'm going to jump to some books, okay? So, Edgar, what did you do to know how to create the exam? Well, I'd read a lot of books. There's a lot of books on this that are not the ones that I'm going to show you. There's books that when developers created their exams, they based themselves on different books. But there are some books that are in the market. Oh, by the way, it's funny because today I was looking for these books online to give you the link. They don't have them online, or maybe I don't know where to look. But before I used to find them easy. One of those books is this one, okay? And what is this book? Well, there's something called the National Center for State Courts, right? And they basically they used to have a book, and they said this is how we construct the exam. So I'm not making things up, by the way, people. I have some things highlighted here and things, but what I'm trying to say is they have books and they teach you how they make the exam. I mean, it's no secret. And they also have books. That's one book. This is another book. This is a test rating manual. They have books and they teach you how they rate the exam. You can read this if you want. You don't have to. Okay, I'm teaching you all this stuff. I've already read these years ago, not these other books. So yeah, they teach you how they rate the exam. They teach you how they build the exam, and then they even paid. In California, we had another exam. We weren't with the consortium. We had another test, but we ran out of money and we decided to give in, and we joined the consortium. So what California did was that they paid this company. You must know it's called Alta Language Service. It's a language company, and they told them, well, we want you to do a study on the consortium exam before we bring the consortium exam, and they did. And then this book is very comparable to the other two books that I showed you, but I actually like this study really a lot. But anyway, why am I talking about this? Because it's no secret what this exam is all about. It's no secret how it's created. It's all there. It's all the information is there. If you think I'm lying about something, go read all these books and then come and argue with me. But anyway, the reason I have this is because it tells you, right? Let me just make it a little bit bigger here. I know people think I'm crazy, but I'm not. Not when it comes to the exam, at least, but for other things I am. Okay, so they have certain categories of scoring units. Okay, let's talk about these categories really quick. I'm not gonna, they're pretty easy. Like they test grammar, but they test you on grammar. Here's a problem when they test you on grammar, though. Okay, let me see if I can. I have to jump around here really quick. Okay, all right. Give me a second here. Okay, so here I have, this is a sample exam. And by the way, this sample exam that I'm showing you on the screen, you can't see everything, but it's okay. It's a very important sample exam for this reason, because this is the only exam that they sell. The National Center for State Courts, they have a sample exam that you can purchase, right? So you can practice for the exams, and they teach you this is how the exam is rated. What I'm teaching you is nothing new. They teach you. They just don't emphasize it as much as I do. And they give you an example of an exam. Okay? Now, if you noticed, for example, this one has about 230 or 240 words. And they only grade you on 10%, which if it's 250, which is the average, then 10% of 250 is 25 words. So here are the 25 words. They're 1, 2, 3, 4, 25, right? Number one. Number two, you see that they have these little letters. And the first letter that we see here is letter A. They have letter A here, right? And let's see if we can find how many A's they have around here. They have 3 A's. A. So they have 3 A's. Okay, what does that mean? 3 of the 25 scoring units, 3 of those grade grammar. Okay, let's say you are interpreting this and your grammar is, when you interpret, your grammar is terrible. Okay, and you got everything wrong. You did everything wrong in your grammar except the first line and the second to last line. Due to a miracle, you got the first sentence right and the last 2 sentences right when you were interpreting. Guess how much you get? What your scoring grammar is? That's the only grammar you got right. The first sentence and the last 2 sentences you got right. You get 100% score on grammar, even though the rest you did terrible. That's why some people, or even if you failed all your grammar, but you got all the other points correct, you still pass. Your grammar's terrible. You speak terrible Spanish, terrible, horrible, from 1 to 10 of 3, and you failed every single score unit on grammar. You failed them all, but you got everything else right. You're still passing because you need an 80%. And to get 80%, you got to get at least about 5 or 6 right. I'm sorry. If you get 5 of these scoring units wrong, you still pass. You get an 80%. So you can fail 5 and still pass this component. So you can fail all your grammar plus another 2, and you're still good. This is why people pass even though they speak terrible Spanish or terrible English. It's not my fault. It's how the way the test is, and I figured it out. Of course, it's not hard to figure out. It's one of the 1,000 things that I've studied on the test, but that's just something I'm teaching you. So if you feel and why am I telling you this? Because I know some of you your confidence level might be, yeah, I know. It's because Edgar, my first language is Spanish, and I do speak English and everything, but I didn't study here in the U.S., so I'm kind of like self-conscious on my right, and all that conversation. I'm all like, all right, okay, somebody's writing on my screen. Somebody's scribbling. I have a hacker scribbling on my screen, but anyway, I'm trying to teach you this to make you gain confidence. I'm not saying this because I'm trying to build your confidence. I know some of you are not confident due to your language skills. I'm not saying that you shouldn't improve them, because then they're going to come back at me and I'm going to get in trouble, right? But you shouldn't focus on your language skills for this. Obviously you need language skills, but they're not the most important thing. I just showed you that even if your grammar is terrible, which, you can still pass. Now, grammar, okay, those 3 points in grammar should be in your pocket because supposedly your grammar is good, right? If your grammar is good, you're not going to fail these, okay? Okay. They shouldn't be, okay, for example, had to hang handcuff, tuvieron que esposarlo. Okay, so for example, here, you would say, okay, the police were called. You got to be careful also because some things may seem simple, but they're really complicated. Like, for example, here many people would say, la policía fue llamada. That's what they want you to do. That's what they want you to say. La policía fue llamada, and that's a mistake. They're going to mark you wrong. If you say la policía fue llamada, that is incorrect. They want you to use the active, not the passive. So in that one, you would have to say la policía se llamó a la cuadra 12,000 de Milestone Lane. Because that's what they're measuring. That's one of the scoring units. Now, it can get complicated.